Hi, everybody. It's great to see everyone here. If you'd like to turn on your video cameras, that is wonderful. It just helps the presenters, see your smiling face and have an audience to speak to. So if you're able to, we do encourage your video to be on. Other thing that I would suggest is I see a lot of names, but I don't know where you're from. Always a great Zoom networking tip is to put in your description not only your name, but your business name or your company name as well. And then that way everyone knows who you are and where you're from. And it's great to make that connection as well. Alrighty, we'll just give a couple of minutes. I'm super excited for our topic today, retail payment scams and cyber crimes. And how can we stop these people? That's what we're going to learn about today. And yes, a lot of us have had to go online with the pandemic, and these are real fears, and there's real bad people out there. So we want to make sure that you are taken care of and protected and safe. Wonderful. All right. I am going to get started. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sam Kassam McPhee, and I am the Membership Advertising and Events Coordinator at the Milton Chamber of Commerce. And on top of that, I have my own business. It's called Family Zoo, and I've been a chamber member for 11 years. And so if you ever have any questions about membership, advertising, or events, give me a shout at sales@miltonchamber.ca. I will put that in the chat section for you. And I want to give a big shout out to Daniel Peak from FirstData. He is our sponsor for today's Live at Lunch. Um, Daniel Peak is from FirstData. We're proud to have FirstData involved with our merchants program for chamber members. And Daniel's going to talk a little bit about that at the end of this session. So without further ado, I'm going to pass you over to Sam. Sam is the product manager at MasterCard. He's part of the digital and cybersecurity team in charge of commercializing and scaling products in Canada. He has worked various projects, products, and business roles in his past, and he provides a unique strategic point of view and is passionate about enabling Canadian businesses of all sizes to succeed in the digital world. Sam's going to do his presentation. He has indicated that he is okay to have questions thrown at him throughout the presentations. So you can either maybe raise your hand and we can select you that way. Or if you want to put your question in the chat box, then we will read it out to Sam and he'll be able to address it as best as he can. Once Sam has completed his presentation, we will move on to a real live experience with one of our local merchants here, Eddie. And I'll introduce you to Eddie a little bit later on. So Sam, go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Sam. First off, I'm very excited to be part of this chat with all the Milton Chamber of Commerce members. Small and medium-sized businesses are really the backbone of not only Canada's economy, but the world economy. So, I saw the opportunity. I was, I jumped on it. So thank you for the chamber for giving me this opportunity. Small and medium-sized businesses make up 90% of the businesses globally, and they employ about 70% of employees in the workforce. So when we think about the pandemic and the recovery post-pandemic, small and medium-sized businesses are really going to play a huge role in how we get out of this and thrive, post-pandemic. Talking about the pandemic, I think it's no surprise to a lot of people on this call. A lot of businesses were predominantly brick and mortar, and a lot of those were forced to go online, and for a lot of these businesses for the first time. So it was really imperative that small businesses understood what it meant to be cyber secure. So maybe to begin, let's talk about digital commerce in general, right? In 2020, when we took a look at our MasterCard data for purchase volumes, online accounted for about 40% of what we were seeing across the board. in 2021, just in Q1, we saw that cross to over half. And you're thinking, oh, it's only 10%. That's millions, billions of dollars that are now shifted online. So as a small business owner, it's opportunity, but also a challenge, right? When you're going online, it's not only about just creating a website. There's a lot that goes into it. It's about taking online orders. It's about taking online digital payments. It's about marketing your product or service, either through social or other avenues. So it's a big challenge the small and medium-sized businesses have. And the reality of it is a lot of businesses like yourself don't have the luxury of having a chief operating officer or a technology officer or even a security officer. You have to manage these all on your own. So there's a huge challenge there. What we're seeing from a cybersecurity trend perspective is we saw a few trends. We're seeing the small, medium-sized businesses have to really, manage a lot more devices. So, if you're in brick and mortar, it might have been a POS system. Now you're online. How you access all those, all the platforms that you use to be able to sell online. Be it tablets, cell phones. What you're asking your employees to be able to use now. All those devices now have to be secured. So we're seeing that the challenge of being able to manage those devices have increased exponentially. What we're seeing too is there's a rise in phishing. And phishing, to kind of in simple terms, if you're not aware, it's really about a bad actor impersonating someone that you might know or might not know to try to get information from you. They might ask you to click on a link. They might ask you to open a file. They might ask for your password. So what we're seeing is these types of attacks have increased exponentially. And in Canada, it's sad to say, globally, we're the #1 target for these phishing attacks. So there's a huge challenge. I think it probably speaks to our trusting nature as Canadians. So and when you take a look at kind of that angle of these phishing attacks having it more prevalent in Canada, you add and you layer on the remote work that's occurring, and you could kind of see how this just spreads like wildfire. People now are forced to work from home. It's a lot more difficult to be able to decipher what is legitimate versus what is fraudulent. So we're seeing that from a trend perspective, and something to kind of keep in mind as I go through my personal presentation, that there is a human element to a lot of these cyber attacks that's happening. And the third trend that we're kind of seeing is hacker capabilities are increasing, and how they're scaling it is actually evolving. So what does that mean? We're seeing that higher end techniques that hackers have traditionally reserved for huge, nation states or huge companies like MasterCard. Now they're able to apply it to small and medium-sized businesses. In the past, the return on investment for a hacker to hack a small business just wasn't there, right? There wasn't enough money to be able to do it. What we're seeing is they're using a lot of technology to automize and to really make these attacks as efficient as possible for them. What that means is they're deploying really high-end hacking capabilities to all these kind of smaller businesses without really lifting a finger. They're using bots, they're using artificial intelligence, they're using automation to be able to attack and scale their attacks across the board. So it's as you could probably imagine, that's a pretty threatening thing to have for small businesses. But it's something to keep in mind of, because I think there's a misconception that as a small business, I'm too small to be attacked. And I think what we're seeing from the trends is that is quickly shifting and just not the reality now. I'll take a pause there as before I go into maybe some of the stacks as it applies to small businesses. Are there any questions or any comments? Anything that may be surprising as from some of the facts that I just laid out?
So, Sam, we do have a question in the comments. Is it okay to take customers' credit card numbers over the phone? Is that a safe way to deal with customers?
So yeah, so is it safe? My my cybersecurity hat is on, and I would tend to say probably not the safest way to be able to take a credit card number. I think there's and Daniel from FirstData will probably have some information to share on this. But from my perspective, kind of working on the digital side, I think there's just more safer ways to be able to take payments online. I know that there's certain businesses where you rely and potentially your customer base is just used to doing it that way. I think what we're seeing though is, especially because of the pandemic, a lot of these or a lot of users are now getting really used to going online to make their purchases. So I would encourage anyone that's currently taking orders through the phone to have conversations with your payment service providers as far as, okay, this is how I'm doing it right now. Is there safer ways for me to be able to take it, either through digital channels or just other avenues to be able to do it? Because I think when you're doing it over the phone, you just increase the risk that a bad actor gets a credit card number and then gets some personal information and able to go online. I think when you go through the online and digital avenue, there's certain technologies that you would be able to leverage to cover your bases a bit more. So yes, you could take it. Is it the safest? Probably not, because there's safer ways to be able to take payments.
Eddie's waving his finger. He's got something to say about that when he's up. All right, wonderful. Thank you for that explanation, Sam.
Yeah, of course. So if there's no other questions, I'll move on. Okay, so we kind of got the lay of the land from a cybersecurity perspective. We saw how things have transitioned because of the pandemic. What's the impact for small businesses? So what we're seeing is since the start of the pandemic, we've seen a 300% increase in cyber attacks. So pretty significant. What we're also seeing is there's about a 600% increase in malicious email attacks. So when I was talking about phishing in Canada, it's predominantly phishing. So again, someone emailing either you, someone within your company, asking you to click on something, or asking for some type of information, impersonating someone that they really aren't. And we're seeing a 600% increase. So that's a pretty significant increase year over year. And I kind of mentioned it, as far as small businesses feeling like they're too small to be attacked. That's just not the case now. What we're seeing is 50% of small businesses have suffered a cyber attack. So, if 1 in 2. So if you haven't had a cyber attack, count yourself lucky. But the business next to you might be one of those businesses that gets attacked in the not too distant future. The really sad thing about this stat is 60% of those that are hit go out of business within 6 months. A lot of it has to do with just the remediation that you have to do after a cyber attack. And a lot of it is, being proactive versus reactive. What ends up happening after you get attacked is you have to then go and spend a lot of your money and trying to patch up the holes that were open. You potentially have to change a vendor if a vendor that you're working with ends up being attacked and your information gets compromised. So it's really about being proactive in the cybersecurity space. It's really thinking thoughtfully about how you interact digitally and doing what you can in kind of shoring up your business in the digital world. And I'll touch on this last piece because I think it probably resonates with a lot of people on the call. But about 25% of those that were surveyed say that they don't even know where to begin. And I think that's where, us as MasterCard, we've kind of saw this and we said, okay, we have to do something about this because it's not okay for small and medium-sized businesses not to know where to start. So it's a lot of scary things that I've kind of touched on, but I promise you, I'm hoping that it is going to be a lot more empowering in the last half of what I'm going to share. So I talked about the human element, and to kind of put some numbers against it. So 95% of cyber breaches are caused by human error. So it's someone doing something that they probably shouldn't have done, right? 95%. 91 of these cyber attacks start with a phishing email. So I think if you get nothing from, if you get one thing from this, my presentation is I really need to try to understand, how the people within my business is how aware they are, but also, okay, what do I know about phishing, and how am I training the people that work under me, how to be able to pick out these phishing emails, or text messages or whatever it is, to be able to make smarter decisions. So I could probably go into a few more, kind of phishing or what to look out for. I think in Canada, what we're seeing predominantly is ransomware, occurring quite a bit. And this is where, all your files are encrypted by a hacker. Then they say, okay, pay me X amount and I'll give you access back to your files. What we're also seeing is business email compromise. What this is just someone, again, impersonating either your boss, a vendor that you work with, saying, you're late on this invoice, could you send me X amount? We're seeing both of those kind of phishing flavors pretty evident or prevalent in Canada. So we kind of talked about all the risks. Let's talk about what you can actually do. So MasterCard, we actually launched this earlier this week, but we launched the MasterCard Trust Center. This is 100% free. So it's free education, resources, and tools to help small businesses and medium-sized businesses get cyber secure. What I like about it is it really gives you options as far as your understanding of cybersecurity and what to do about it. So if you're going in with zero knowledge, there's a path for you to be able to take to get a bit more knowledgeable. And a lot of the content is created with small businesses in mind. So a lot of it is bite size. It's not sitting down for an hour. It's sitting down for 5 minutes, watching a video, reading a one pager on a certain something that you should be doing or should be thinking about. So if you're going in with very little knowledge, there's a path for you, all the way to if you're IT security or you have someone on your staff that's in charge of all of it, where they could learn more and maybe advance their knowledge of cybersecurity and help protect your business a lot more securely. So kind of in summation, I think what I want you to really try to understand is a lot of these attacks can be prevented. A lot of it, there's a human element. So think about the people in your business. If 90% of these attacks, 95% is going to start with someone within your business doing something they shouldn't do, you need to shore that up as soon as possible. And you don't need to be a cybersecurity professional to do these things. A lot of the basic stuff solves a lot of the problems that we see. So definitely check out the MasterCard Trust Center to start off with. I'll mention a few other tools that you might find useful. And all of these are free. So I think, that's a big thing that I try to make clear. You don't need to invest a ton of money. A lot of these are free. And it's just a matter of, taking the time to be able to kind of do these things. I'll mention the Global Cyber Alliance. This organization, we've partnered with them in the past, and they offer free tools for small businesses to be able to leverage. And they really walk you through the process as you kind of evolve your business digitally. And I'll talk about the Cyber Readiness Institute. They create materials just for small businesses to be able to educate yourself, but also your employees about how, amongst, all these different topics, but they really try to walk you through, tell you about, and try to, in really simple terms, educate you and your employees in your business, even your vendors on, best practices and what you should be doing. The government also has a lot of free resources, Get Cyber Safe Guide that they've launched, as well as Cyber Secure Canada, I think is a really great resource from the Canadian government that I think should be kind of as part of your tool set as you're evolving and growing, your digital presence online. So that was the end of my piece. Over to you, Sam, if to see if there's any questions.
Wonderful. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. We do have a few questions.
Sure.
One of the things were for the phishing emails. How do you know it's a phishing email? Are there any telltales in there that you
Oh
can
yeah,
share with us?
yeah, absolutely. So as part of MasterCard, we, for obvious reasons, look, we deal with a lot of sensitive data. So we get tested daily. So we get a ton of emails, and our IT department is constantly testing us to see, okay, are you spotting these emails that are going through? A lot of them are really, really persuasive. So a few things to kind of keep in mind. So usually when I take a look at an email, I take a look at where is it coming from, right? That's the first place I look, because a lot of the times they'll, when you take a look at that, is it inside the company or is it external, right? That's my number one question. If it's external, okay, red flag. I'm like, okay, have I talked to this person before? When was the last time I talked to this person? I think about those things. And if it's unsolicited, for the most part, I just delete it, because there's the risk to, for your business to click on anything that's unsolicited is just far too high. So I think you have to be really careful if it's coming externally. Take a look at, the context of the email. Like, are they asking me to click on something? Have I asked, like, number one, do I know this person? Have I asked for this information? A lot of the times what I'll do too is, even if it's coming from someone that I know and I talk with semi regularly, if something is off where they're asking me to click on something where usually they don't ask me to click on something, I'll actually get on the phone and ask them, hey, did you send this email? Or I'll, if it's internal, I'll, quickly send someone a text, hey, I got this email from you. Is this really you? A lot of the times, they'll say like, yep, it's me. You could click on it. But in certain cases, they'll say, no, that didn't come from me. And then, it's kind of saved me the headache of hearing from my IT department asking me, why did you click on that? Because you should have been able to catch it. So a lot of those things, I think, is just being aware of, emails or even texts. I think something that we kind of saw as the pandemic was starting, and all these government payments were coming out, was these scams that were going through text messaging saying, your payment, your government payment is here, you need to verify, click on this link. And again, you have to be very careful. Anything where it's coming from a source that you're not sure of, it's way safer to question it, do that extra step of reaching out to that person or company, just to verify, okay, this is you, and it's safe to kind of click on.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We do have another question. It says, what if we accidentally open up that suspicious email? What do we do next? Do we restart the computer? Do we close the file? Do we delete? What happens? You went in and you click that click. What do you do?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I think number one, if you have someone within your IT staff, you have to flag it to them right away. I think there's no shame. I think that's what so even senior executives at MasterCard click on these, and they, we share the information. So I think a big part of it is, if you have someone that you're able to talk to that is maybe more technical than you are, let them know, okay, I got this email, I clicked on it, nothing seemed to happen, I think it's potentially phishing, can you help me? And there's certain technical protocols that they'll be able to see, okay, what access was given, how do we patch it up, that kind of thing. And a lot after that, if you don't have a certain IT staff, I think it's running antivirus, trying to see are there certain patches within your system that are outdated that you need to patch up right away. A lot of times, if you click on it, it's almost too late. So I want to say, try to patch up your system as soon as you can, because a lot of the times, if you're using Windows, iPhone, Android, they have huge security teams that are aware of all these phishing tactics, and they send out patches to be able to patch, if certain techniques are being used, so that even if you click on it, nothing will happen, because these huge organizations have invested the money to patch it up. But I think, again, contact, don't sit there with shame and say, oh, I shouldn't have done that, now I'm just going to keep quiet. I think, and if you are the business owner, I think creating a environment where it's okay, like we're all learning, let's share information. If I did something I shouldn't have done, that people feel safe to be able to share that information, I think is as important as actually training your employees. Because sweeping under the rug, just for in a lot of times, it just creates a bigger problem.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much, Sam. If anyone thinks of any other questions while we're continuing the session, please don't hesitate to put it into the chat and we will get it back to Sam for you. Sam, you mentioned a lot of resources. We are recording the session today, and everybody who is in attendance will get a copy of that. But if you have a few minutes and you don't mind, could you pop in some of those links or the names of those services into the chat as well? And then that way it's documented there too.
Yeah,
All right, thank you
absolutely.
so much. All right, now I have the pleasure to introduce Eddie. I have known Eddie forever. We work collaboratively through Family Zoo with his Little Rockers program. He also does music lessons and has a full retail store as well. And unfortunately, Eddie just experienced a retail payment scam. So he's going to share his story and hopefully have some tips that he can share too of what he's done on a go forward basis. So, Eddie, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Thank you, Sam, and thank you, Sam from MasterCard, for all your info. I'll start off just by saying that I'm by no means an expert in this kind of stuff. I'm like you guys. I'm a small business owner, doing my best to navigate these trying times. And like lots of you guys, I'm sure I had to quickly adapt and shift focus when the pandemic started. And shortly thereafter, that is when we were the victims of what Sam referred to as a bad actor situation, where this was an individual who gained our trust, and we let our guard down, and we were also new to this whole situation and this whole world of taking payments and processing transactions that we were taken advantage of pretty significantly. So it's a pretty embarrassing story, and I've mentioned that a couple of times because it's for my ego, it definitely hurts when you're taken advantage of like this. You think everything, and you're quickly put in your place, and it's proven that there's a lot to learn, and it's a changing landscape. And so for our other speakers to provide us with all the information that they're going to provide us with, it's really important. So I'll just jump into my story. So this occurred with Get Loud Music, and Get Loud Music is my retail musical instrument store where we sell, rent, and repair instruments. And so at the start of the pandemic, like I mentioned, we were trying to shift to e-commerce, and we had already launched an e-commerce store, but we were really looking to beef it up and generate more sales. I mean, there's definitely a sense of panic when you're not really sure what the future holds and how people are going to shop for a guitar. So we started adding more SKUs onto our website and started focusing a lot more energy into our e-commerce. And like I said, we were new to it, and you know, we thought we were doing everything right, and it turns out we were pretty good on the e-commerce side. But that mixed with, you know, the urgency and a bad actor who was a very good actor doing what they did, we kind of got taken. I also had a new baby at home. I probably wasn't the sharpest, and you know, this individual knew what they were doing. It was clearly well thought out. And basically what they did was they would call the store, speak to an employee, refer to a number of items on our e-commerce store, had a really good backstory as well, and a good motive to you know, what they were looking at and why they were looking at making these purchases. In this case, it was high-priced guitars and amplifiers, and they were talking about opening up a music studio. So makes complete sense to spend a few $1,000s here and there on some nice pieces of equipment. The individual also didn't just speak to one staff member. He spoke to a number of staff members prior to actually engaging in the first sale. So really gained everybody's trust, built a lot of rapport, talked a lot about gear. So it didn't seem like there was anything fishy going on. Like I said, it wasn't until about the fourth encounter that this person over the phone initiated a sale. And because we were so new to e-commerce, processing a phone order actually was just easier for us. So we went along with it, thought we were asking for all the right information, got a picture of his identification, got the CVV on the back of the credit card. You know, we were doing everything that we thought we needed to do. And we processed the sale. And then when it came to shipping, this is a red flag that I didn't realize, but he wanted to generate his own shipping label and use his own account because he wanted the equipment quickly. We process and ship everything with Canada Post. He said that he already had an account with FedEx or Purolator. I can't really remember which one. And so we just went along with it. He sent us the shipping label. We packaged everything up, and the next day out went all of this equipment. Now, this was the first transaction that he did, and it was, you know, maybe for $1,500. And then a few days later, he initiates another sale with a different staff member. Few days go by, another sale. This went on for about 3 weeks with 4 different staff members. And it wasn't until that you know, 7th sale, I think it was, that I finally stopped everything and flagged it, because it just seemed like he was buying too much, which is also another indicator. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. And in this case, it really was. So I started investigating with our payment provider, and I quickly learned that phone orders are really not protected at all. If there is a dispute, you will be issued a chargeback. And for those who don't know what that is, when your card is compromised on the personal end, you call Visa, you know, it's or MasterCard, and it's taken care of. It's insured. You're fine. That money has to come back to you from somewhere. It's pulled back from the merchant. It's pulled back from, sorry, the retailer. So because it was disputed and there was no chip authentication or anything like that, we were issued the chargebacks at the end of the day. Now, we were taken for retail value of about $25,000. at the end of the day, and had to obviously issue a police report. We did dispute it with our provider. We're still fighting. We're still trying to get insured, but it's just this common misconception I think that a lot of people have, is that you're insured. Oh, it's credit cards, I'm totally insured. Well, unless you're doing things a certain way, there's a good chance that you're not. So you do need to be very, very, very careful. Let me just see if I missed anything. Does anybody have any questions or anything? Because I totally don't mind having people jump in and ask any questions about what we did or what we could have done differently.
If you've got a question, you can just go ahead and unmute yourself and ask the question live, or you can type it into the comments for me and I can read it out for you.
So is it?
Yeah, go ahead.
So is it? So is it different if we have chip? If you have the physical card, is there more of a protection, or is it? Or you still kind of, is the retailer at the end still kind of on the hook? Even if this would.
So one thing, just because I'm just going to continue with the story a little bit and jump in with those bits, and I'll let Sam and the other guys talk about that kind of stuff. But
okay,
it's funny you mentioned the physical card, because when I started investigating, and the individual was very forthcoming with all the information, I picked up the phone and spoke to him, and he said, no, everything's fine. This isn't fraud. Because I flat out just called him on it, because we had done six transactions and we had communication over the phone, and he was super friendly. So it wasn't until I had asked him for a physical picture of the card so that I could verify that the number matched what he had given us that has his name and the CVV, that he eventually just ghosted us. He gave us a picture of his identification, which ended up being false. It was a fake ID, and that was matching with the addresses. And like I said, because he gave a CVV and postal code, everything seemed to be okay. But without that extra step, that PIN verification, that's what we learned, exposed us the most. So moving forward, what we do is, the only way that we will accept a phone order is if I personally, as the owner, know who this individual is, and I'm willing to take that risk at the end of the day. Otherwise, everything needs to be purchased through our online store, where we've got added levels of security, or they have to come into the store and actually present their card and use their PIN. And that's what we've done in order to protect ourselves. Because unless you do that, you very well could just end up in our position.
Eddie,
So,
I've got somebody asking, what was the actual issue with the card? Was it a false credit card, or the payment didn't go through, or what was the actual?
right. Sorry. So it was a stolen credit card. And we were initially tipped off by an anonymous, well, it wasn't anonymous, it was an email that came from an individual that said, hey, my card was used at your location 3 weeks ago, and it wasn't me, and I've canceled the card since, but I wanted you to know. And that's what instigated the whole let's investigate. We're potentially in some big trouble here. And then that's when we went to our provider and learned about chargebacks and how we were super exposed. And if those other transactions came back as being disputed because there was 2 different cards that were used, then we were in big trouble. And sure enough, the other card was found to have been a stolen credit card as well, and the chargebacks were all issued. And they don't give you any time, by the way, too. That money is just immediately removed from your account. So it's just this, during a pandemic, this massive blow that I mean, like Sam, you touched upon, it can cripple a business. The stat of the amount of businesses that go under as a result of this type of thing, it's astonishing. But I could see how quickly it could happen if if you're not watching very, very carefully. And I think a lot of people were just vulnerable and naive and caught super off guard this year. I think I've really touched on everything that I wanted to touch on. It's an embarrassing story, but it's a story I think that's worth hearing. You know, luckily, musical instrument sales have been up this year, so we were able to recover. But you know, it was definitely a big hit and put us, you know, 6 months behind or whatever it is. And I hope it doesn't happen to any of you guys. And if you have any more questions, feel free to throw them in the chat or ask me. And you know, I'm looking forward to hearing what FirstData has to say. And again, thanks to the Chamber for having me and letting me tell my story, and hopefully that this can help some of you guys.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Eddie.
No
Eddie,
problem.
I'm so sorry that this happened to you. I know it's embarrassing and it's hard to put it out there, but I'm glad that you're sharing it with other business owners and letting them know, because it can happen to anyone. And so we really need to be on high alert for that. I know that you mentioned that now you've changed your policy of how you accept credit cards. Is there any other things that you've implemented on a go forward basis, kind of what Sam had said, being proactive instead of reactive? Have you put in training for your staff to kind of, you know, give them indicators or whatnot? Anything else that you've put into place? Or if you haven't, then maybe Sam can recommend some things that
Yeah, I think I touched on a lot of the things. Like, they can go online and buy direct through our website, where we do have secure payment processing, and there are procedures on our end that we do need to follow as far as shipping to a certain address when it's been paid for, you know, through a third party payment processor who provides the address. There's definitely you know, a few new training points that we've implemented. The good thing is we didn't have to do we didn't really have to do a whole lot, because we've literally just said no phone in orders unless Eddie approves it, or unless it's somebody that Eddie knows, because at the end of the day, I'm the owner, I'm the one assuming all of the risk. And then anytime, you know, anything looks fishy or seems too good to be true, I mean, when it comes to emails, phishing emails and all that kind of stuff, my staff doesn't even open those. Those are left for me. They know, you know, who's on the approved list of safe emails, unless it is a customer, which you know, everybody knows not to be, you know, clicking links and doing things of that nature. And we quickly do divert people to our online store. But we encourage the in-person with a physical card with their PIN and their chip, because that seems to be the safest. We've also been looking at address verification as well. So if there is somebody that, for whatever reason, has a really good reason why they cannot process the payment through our online store or by coming in, then we'll take those steps to verify the address. And then it's still, at the end of the day, it's going to be up to me as the owner if I'm going to allow that transaction to occur or not.
Wonderful. Are there any other questions for either Sam or Eddie? I'll open it up just briefly here. Right, and Eddie, you're getting all kinds of love in the comment section.
Oh, thanks,
People
guys.
are shouting out how brave you are and respect you for coming and telling your story. And
Thanks, guys.
yeah, so when you've got a minute, maybe check out the comments section. There's lots of love there for you.
Cheers. Thanks.
Yeah, no worries. And so now what I'd like to do is I would like to thank again our sponsor for today's event, which is FirstData. And we have Daniel here from FirstData, and he's going to share a little bit of information. Daniel, are you there?
I am here, yes.
Wonderful. All right, I'm going to throw it over to you, Daniel.
Okay. So thank you, Eddie, for sharing your story. I'm going to preference my comments, I guess, first and foremost for me saying I mainly handle a lot of sales inquiries. That's mainly my sweet spot. I don't deal a lot with the chargeback issues like directly. Obviously, as we've kind of been talking about, the reality is that it is out there. I think honestly, Eddie kind of talked about a lot of the stuff that I was just going to mention. So it's good that he's kind of more aware of this kind of stuff. Unfortunately, it took something like this where it made him a little bit more aware of it. But hopefully, from hearing his story, a lot of you can kind of take that information and go forward and take those practices into consideration. I think these kind of things are definitely more challenging for businesses that do have higher ticket items. He has a music store, so tickets can be around $1,000 or more. Those ones obviously hurt more with those kind of transactions. And if I were an owner, I'd probably feel the same way if I wasn't as knowledgeable in this kind of space with these little details, and take cards over the phone for sure. Like that's usually a normal way of doing business. And obviously it's a function that's enabled for a lot of businesses to be able to do. As he mentioned, and as I think Sam mentioned earlier on the MasterCard side, it is always is always more secure to take payments via chip and PIN. Businesses are protected like almost 100% of the time when it's a chip and PIN transaction. So always encouraging your businesses to come in and take payments is definitely the way to go. The other thing too that you can do maybe is invest in wireless terminals so that you can help ensure that you do card present transactions more, so that you can maybe take the machine with you on the road to that person's house or to that meeting location or whatever it may be. If that suits your business model, that's another alternative that you can take into consideration. But yeah, like taking credit card numbers over the phone definitely is a little bit more risky, as we've highlighted. The other thing too, I was going to say, and Eddie did actually mention this as well, is that doing transactions doing transactions online is a little bit more secure. Also, while the card is not present, there are also like third-party companies that will provide specific fraud prevention tools. Eddie alluded to this when he was talking about it, but it sounds like he has that implemented. Those can be very good in helping detect those potential fraud situations, whereas you don't really have that as much when you're just taking a card over the phone necessarily. So yeah, I would just say try to do as many chip and PIN transactions as you can. If you don't have a web store, make a web store, have those security measures in place. And especially if you are a higher ticket item business, for sure, with some future delivery, it's always important to be able to have those things in place. With that, I guess, is there any questions for me regarding that information so far? I'll do my best to answer.
Maybe I'll just add a point to yours, Daniel. So I think I kind of mentioned the kind of evolving world that we're living in, where a lot more transactions are shifting to online. I don't want you to feel like card present transactions or transactions that you take in the physical space is your only or safest option here. There is other technologies that you would be able to leverage. I'll mention a few, but I think it's really about having a thoughtful conversations with whoever takes your payments. But there's EMV 3DS. What that is the same way that you take there's chip and PIN and physical. In the digital world, it's kind of the equivalent. So it really offers a kind of a second line of defense for online transactions, and allows all the parties, the merchant, the banks, to be able to authenticate users online. So in Eddie's case, if let's say he said, no, we're not taking online, or we're not taking over the phone. You have to go through our website at this moment because we're shut down right now. If that transaction went through as a EMV 3DS transaction, then the banks would have then got involved and potentially send a text message to that owner that reached out to Eddie saying, this wasn't me. that user would have got, a text message saying you're trying to buy something from this location. Is this you? That user would have likely said no. And then, this could have been prevented. So, I wanted to mention that, there's address verification services also, there's CVC2 verification services online. There's a lot of technology, and, companies like FirstData, MasterCard, and all the networks, all the banks spending a lot of money to be able to make sure that these fraudulent transactions get caught. So, it's just about having a thoughtful conversation with whoever takes your payments, bringing these things up and saying, okay, what could you do to help me kind of manage this as I manage my business?
Wonderful. Daniel, did you have a link or video that we wanted to show for you?
I don't have a link, but I can share my screen just to quickly show a couple of the offerings that we have regarding like the Clover products, if I'm able to do that.
Of course, yeah. Alyssa, can you give Daniel co-hosting abilities, please?
Yep, it's already done.
Wonderful. Okay, Daniel, you should be able to share your screen now.
Okay. Sorry, I'm not as familiar with Zoom. I use a different one here. Where do I go to share my screen here?
Alyssa?
So if you just go look at the bottom, there should be a bar right at the bottom of the Zoom screen, and there'll be like a green, it will say share screen with an arrow pointing upwards. You see anything like that there?
Oh yeah, I see it. Yeah.
Okay, so just click on that, and then you'll see like a bunch of different applications you can choose from. So whichever from what you have open there.
Okay, I don't know, can people see my screen here?
Yep, it's all good.
Okay. So FirstData is obviously the company that owns Clover. You guys might have seen Clover out in the market, really good retail solutions. Wireless terminal, or all of our solutions are wireless. So I had mentioned like maybe being able to have something to take with you to businesses. That's another way to kind of work around some things with this stuff as well. These are kind of some of our baseline prices that we have laid out for some of our main products. Clover Flex is the wireless handheld device that businesses will use more to take with you to different places. Clover Mini is more designed as a kind of a countertop solution, retail businesses that like to have kind of that tablet looking feel device. That's also provided there in this slide. And then Clover Station Duo is something that we just came out with in Canada only a few months ago. This is more designed for any kind of retail businesses or quick service restaurants. We are getting a solution set up pretty soon for full table service where you can do table mapping services on the point of sale. So the main advantage with Clover is basically being able to combine some of the point of sale features that a lot of you use with the actual payment processing side, rather than having to go through two different vendors to do your point of sale and another vendor to do your payment processing, which is the traditional way of doing it, trying to keep it all into one. And being able to manage it that way. If you're someone that operates a retail business and you're still using a cash drawer a cash register traditionally and doing all your work manually for reporting at the end of the night or the week or however you reconcile, you should definitely look into these options for sure, because we try to keep it as affordable as we can for our different register plans. But our reporting is up to the second. It'll really save you guys a lot of time on your reporting if you guys are a retail business that needs to do that reconciliation at the end of the night to be able to manage that time. So again, these are some of our main products that we have, price listings across the board for each of these products. Below are some of the accessories that are sold in terms of like scanners, kitchen printers, sticky label printers, cash drawers, anything else that's required in a point of sale type environment, whether you're, like I said, retail or quick service type restaurant type operation for your business. Are there any questions from anyone regarding any of this stuff, or anything that maybe you've seen or do you want clarified regarding products, or anything regarding Clover that I can help highlight for you?
All right, I
Sounds good.
am not seeing anything. But Daniel, if you don't mind, if you can tell us about what chamber deals there are for us.
Yeah, certainly. So these prices, unfortunately, are just kind of kept with everyone, to be honest with you, these specific ones on the hardware. That being said, chamber members get a guarantee that we have to lower rates, or a business gets $1,000 prepaid MasterCard. So if you're with the current provider, you want to do a consultation where you want to see where costs can be lower. We'll review your statement for you, see where we can add value. There's going to be areas where we can't. There's going to be areas where we can. We go through that process with you. We can demo any of these 3 solutions that you see on your screen at the same time, but chamber members do have that cost guarantee on the rate that we have to lower it for you as being a member of the Chamber of Commerce. And we help you better understand your credit card fees as well, how you're being billed, what fees go to Visa, MasterCard, what fees go to the banks, what fees go to the payment processor, so that you know going forward what to look for in terms of how the payment processor charges you. Because that's ultimately what it comes down to. And I'm going to help explain that to you so that when you look at your statement next month, you know exactly what to look for and what's important for that element of it.
Wonderful.
Chamber members also don't get setup fee charges as well. That's another thing that's waived from that perspective on any account that you set up with us.
Okay, so if somebody wanted to do that free consultation, that analysis of their statement, could you please put in the comment section how they can reach you, Daniel, and they can set up an appointment with you directly?
Yeah, for sure. I can definitely provide my contact info. I'm available by telephone or email anytime you want. If you just have questions in general about the industry and you just want to have that conversation, I'm happy to discuss that further with you. Or like Sam said, if you want to do an actual consultation, like I mentioned, where we actually take a deep dive into your actual merchant statement, then I'm also happy to do that with you as well. I do it all day long for businesses that are with Moneris or Chase or Elevon or Global or TD, whoever. We do these all day long reviews. We go over it with them. We demo the solution. If you decide to go ahead with us, great. If not, at least you get something out of it where you have a better understanding of how you're being billed each month. So I can certainly provide my information and do this for whoever wants to take a look at it for sure.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Daniel. We really appreciate it. I'm just going to do a little bit of housekeeping here, let you know about what upcoming events there are. We have our Milton Breakfast Club. It is happening on June the 9th from 8 to 9 p.m. It is sponsored by Bensel Consulting. There is an opportunity for you to spotlight your business or do a 5-minute pitch from the podium. So hopefully we'll see some new businesses out there. Our Milton Young Professional Learning Series is happening on June the 10th from 4:30 to 5:30, and that is sponsored by Gordon Food Services. Nathan, the chair of the board of the directors for the Ontario Chamber of Commerce, will be talking about the importance of young professional networks and his journey from being a young professional himself and being on the board of directors of the Young Professionals Network and shift in Thunder Bay to becoming the chair of the Ontario Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. So that should be a good one. And then we also have our incredible race coming up. It's on June the 15th. It's from 3:30 to 5:30 p.m. You're solving brain teasers, mastering your skills, testing your challenges. You can challenge yourself, your coworkers, and other local businesses. Get some friendly competition going on in there. You can sign up with teams of 3 to 4, or you can sign up as an individual and be put onto a team. Whatever works best for you. And that at the end of the incredible race, you'll be joined by the Business After Hours crew, and they will be cheering you on in the last leg of the race. And so that is June the 15th, the Business After Hours from 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. All of these events you can register on our website at miltonchamber.ca, or make sure you're opening up those Tuesday e-newsletters, and all the information is in there, and there's a clickable link there, and that link is safe to click and to sign up. Our next live at lunch is on Wednesday, June the 23rd from 11:30 to 12:30 p.m. And if you think you've got something that you'd like to share with our members, you can offer your expertise, you can educate, etc., please shoot me an email at sales@miltonchamber.ca. We'll run it by our committee. And who knows, maybe you'll be our next Live at Lunch. All right, thank you so much, everybody. I want to again thank our speakers, Sam from MasterCard for sharing your expertise, Eddie for putting yourself out there and letting us know what happened to you and the positivity and what changes you've made going forward. And I'm glad business is booming, and I'm coming to get those guitar strings from you in that pic. So you'll definitely be seeing me at your location. And that's it, everybody. Oh, and FirstData, thank you so much, Danielle, for the sponsorship. We appreciate it. And everyone have a wonderful day. Thanks so much for attending. Bye now.
Thank you.